The purpose of this recording is to document and present my internship portfolio for the Loyola University of Maryland Educational Technology Internship. My name is Samantha Laraia. I am a 7th grade English teacher at Farquhar Middle School in Montgomery County, Maryland. I am currently pursuing my master's degree in Ed Tech through Loyola University of Maryland. What I'm going to show you today is my internship portfolio. So as required by our program, I completed an internship over the past 2016-2017 school year. The purpose of my internship was to become a technology leader within my building. My plans were to teach, lead, and help engage my coworkers and the building staff about meaningful and purposeful uses of technology in education. Last year, my school was in a big transition year because we moved from one of the oldest buildings in Montgomery County to a brand new building. And in my mind, I saw that as the perfect opportunity for teachers to be willing to try new things and integrate more technology into lessons, since we would be in the most updated space for technology. My plans for my internship included both macro and micro sessions of professional development, where I would introduce different technology tools that could be used in classrooms. But I quickly learned by end of October, beginning of November, that my plans were not going to go as I had hoped. Throughout my presentation, I highlight both the successes and the difficulties of my internship through the discussion of my key concepts. One thing I wanted to share is my action plan that I created. We actually had to create an action plan for our summer class last year with Dr. Williams, and I used this as an opportunity to plan what I would want to do for professional development. I was really optimistic that this would work out the way I had hoped, but it didn't. But at the time, I didn't think that it seemed like it would be too much of a struggle to do so. I planned to do pre-service, micro sessions, and then throughout the school year, my plans included doing 2 sessions a month, one macro and one micro. So one session in which I would present about a topic to all staff, and one session in which people could come to me if they needed help with anything or wanted to do something specific. Also included in here is my internship reflections. I wanted to put people of note that are mentioned throughout my reflections. I tried to do at least one reflection a month, if not more, throughout the whole internship. I found this to be really helpful for me because I could compare it to what I had said would be happening in my action plan. And when I was putting this presentation together, I really looked at and determined how my internship went based on my personal reflections throughout and the action plan that I showed you above. So I felt that I really hit on and very successfully demonstrated 5 of the key concepts in my internship. For key concept 3, technology integration models, my focus throughout my whole internship was really to help the staff in my school see that technology is not just substituting one thing for another. It's not just, quote unquote, using technology to make it look like you're using it. It is using the technology that's available to enhance what your students are doing and learning. So at one of our staff meetings in October, so it's still pretty close to the beginning of the year, I showed the staff the picture that is to the right here of the Samar coffee cup metaphor. We had seen this before in Kelly's class, and it was something that really stuck out to me as a good example of how to explain this model to people who don't understand or are just learning about technological change in education. I introduced the model, and they had some questions to answer in small groups. And then as a whole group, we talked about each other's responses, and especially the last question that I said, which was, just from this quick preview, which coffee do you think you are when it comes to using technology in your classroom? And it was really interesting to hear where people thought they were in the stages of SAMR, but it also confirmed for me that the majority of my staff was in the substitution phase. One thing about this session was that it really opened up a dialogue among staff about how they were using technology and what they would like to be able to do. I think it helped the staff really see that it is more than just substitution. Just using a Google Doc instead of a pen or pencil does not make you a genius with technology. And having this staff meeting really helped open their eyes, and it made me really hopeful that my internship would be successful, or as successful as it could be, because they seemed very interested. And before the staff left, I also had made copies and laminated this SAMR model that is courtesy of Kathy Schrock, to keep with them, to just help them think about what kind of technology they're using and how they can take it to that next step or that next phase of SAMR. For Key Concept 5, Assessment with Technology, this is really one of the parts of my internship that I'm most proud of. I became much more of a leader in my department this school year because of my internship and the technology leader role. One thing that we were tasked with was better organizing and analyzing our writing data and being able to share this out. And I was trying to think about how I could create this data, make it visually appealing, and share it with my the English department staff, when I would say 7 of the 10 people in my department are the most opposed to using new technology in their classroom. So I sat down and I started playing with Google Sheets, and I realized that for the people who were opposed to technology, this would really help them because it is just like Excel, and they know how to use Excel. So what I did was, Farquhar is known for our writing program and the way that we teach writing in the English department. In order to collect data in an easier way and make it so everybody could see it, I created a Google Sheet for each grade level. And as teachers completed their pre and post tests, I would go in and color code each part of a paragraph based on the teacher feedback. So for example, if their topic sentence was great, it would be green. If their topic sentence needed work, it would be yellow, and anything you see that is red means the student needed to work on it. This became a really good tool that we used throughout the entire school year, and it was really helpful because my principal is a visual person and wants to get right to the point when he's talking about things. So this allowed for our department, as well as other departments that picked up on this system, to share data with the people it needed to be shared with in an efficient and clean way that was simple for people to use, and it was easy enough that people could master this skill and move on and be done with it. It was great because we could use it when we needed to, and then we knew it was there when we needed it. In addition to the data that I was able to collect, throughout my internship, I also taught several professional development sessions about formative assessment tools and how to use them in a classroom. The most successful one was definitely about Plickers. The staff was really engaged and responsive, and in the pictures here, you'll see this was just what we call it the Roadrunner's Nest, our professional development room, looked like. And I had a whole presentation. We played around with Plickers. I made it as engaging as I could, and I even made copies of Plicker cards for the staff to take with them in hopes that they would be more encouraged to do it, having that with them as they left. Another successful PD session I led relating to assessment tools and data was when I led part of a macro session. My staff development teacher and I split the session, and I introduced the staff to Nearpod. And the reason I chose to introduce Nearpod after Plickers was because Nearpod takes the use of technology a few steps further than Plickers. I introduced Plickers as a combination of high tech and low tech, and it made people feel more comfortable that, oh, I'm just using my phone for this. But Nearpod allows teachers to make real-time changes and view student responses immediately. And I thought that that was something definitely worth presenting so that people could enhance what they were doing in their classrooms. They could use a better source of technology or a more engaging way of assessing their students. For key concept 10, creating a technology vision for a school, I wanted to talk about the action plan that I had created. Going into this internship, I had big plans. I had a lot of ideas for my school and professional development, and I really was hopeful and optimistic that it would work out just like that. But realistically, working in education, I should have known that not everything is going to go to plan and that it can change at the snap of a finger. I was able to create this plan for what I wanted it to be. The plan was clear. I shared with my administration, I shared with my faculty, but I could not control what was happening in my school at the time. So again, here's my action plan. I was able to lead several sessions of both macro and micro professional development, which there are tons of examples of throughout my pre-internship portfolio and these key concepts. I was happy that I was able to lead group activities and facilitate those activities. There was teacher-led instruction, hands-on lessons, but things really started to fall apart once our professional development teacher had to become acting administration. One of our assistant principals left in October and never came back to work. And Jennifer then had to step up, which left me with professional development. But I had a plan and I wanted to do something to be able to finish out the school year with professional development. But the issue came when the staff wasn't held accountable to come to professional development. They just stopped coming. Luckily, my friends would still come, but that was not enough for me to feel like I was being successful. So I went to my principal, I went to Jennifer, and I said, what can I do more of? So what ended up happening was that I became in charge of the Chromebooks in my school. The plan came when, after talking to my principal, we decided that it wasn't going to be worth it to try and get the staff back to doing professional development each Thursday. So why don't I take over the tech-related issue of dealing with Chromebook issues, which I was completely fine with. I had led PD at the beginning of the year about different ways of using Chromebooks, so I was okay with it. With dealing with Chromebooks, I had to deal with hardware issues, still teaching people how to use Chromebooks, lost Chromebooks, anything relating to that. It was really overwhelming because we had so many Chromebooks, and the system that my principal had created for them was not organized in a way that made sense to me. But I was thankful that I had Jennifer helping me. A big issue that we had this year was that students did not take advantage. They were not taking responsibility for the Chromebooks, and the parents were not making them take responsibility. So for this school year, we created a very in-depth Chromebook agreement that both parents and students have to read and sign. And we're hoping that this will help kids take more responsibility. We adapted this agreement from another school, and it is 7 pages long, which we're going to try to cut down to make it less intimidating. But at the same time, we want it to be more intimidating so that kids will hold themselves accountable for not throwing a Chromebook on the ground. So while my vision for my school didn't necessarily go the way I wanted to, I was able to adapt my plan and make it work for the situation that I was in and that my school was in as a whole. For key concept 14, digital videos, the use of digital videos, making them, helping students make them, was one of my favorite things that we learned throughout the 2 years of this program. Having the ability to create screencasts and screen recordings, just like I'm doing now, it was so helpful in my classroom. I could create videos that other teachers could use, that I could refer to my kids to. But at the beginning of the year, I was able to use screencasting to save myself from something, and it opened a dialogue between my principal and I that I thought was important. In September, when we had back to school night, I had to miss back to school night because my grandfather had passed away and we were in New York for the week. And I had a copy of my presentation. I knew I could make a screencast, and all that I needed somebody to do was be in my room to push play. And I know this may not seem like it's relevant to my internship because this is about my own classroom and not leading with other people, but this led to a discussion with my principal because he told me that I needed to do my best to make it home for back to school night because a recording couldn't replace me. And while I appreciated the compliment, I really picked apart what he was saying, and we got to the point that he didn't want people to think that they could use technology to replace being there for something or doing something and use it as a reason to not come to events like this. And the discussion that I had with him when I picked apart what he was saying is what led to me presenting about SAMR back at the staff meeting. And it is why I did that presentation, because I wanted him to also see that, sure, in this instance, the screencast was substituting for me being there. It was that first part of SAMR, and it was just taking over a spot for me, but that was not the reason that I did it. If I could have done it differently, I would have, but also that the screencasting and the recording can be used in a class to do the same thing, but in different ways. So I introduced screencasting to the staff during a macro professional development, and it was not successful because the staff was super burned out and they just were not interested. So I decided to make it a micro offering to come to my room, and I would go over how to screencast and do screen recordings. And I was very happy because the entire science department showed up in my room, including our interns, and the whole English department showed up. And it was one of the most successful sessions I led. There was probably only 15 people, but it was engaging. We were discussing the entire time. And then the science department really took advantage of it and used it for presentations like this one.
The best fun forever. Our product will stick with you. By Stephen Billick, Daniel Morales, Crisante Calamanis, and Gabriella Caponiti.
Why you should purchase our product. Our product is super duper safe. It is made of...
So if you watch through that video, it is the students doing a presentation, but instead of taking the time to do it in class, they were able to do their research in class and then record this, and then the teacher can just watch the presentations on their own time. The science department used screencasting the entire year. In addition, another way of using digital video, a big goal of the English department this year was to move away from writing as a summative assessment. The point that I wanted to get across to the teachers who were very opposed to using technology was that writing a paragraph or writing an essay is not going to be an appealing activity to all kinds of learners. That we need to come up with, in this age of technology, a way for students to get to the same end product by using different tools. I have, part of my curriculum is a personal narrative at the beginning of each school year in which students have to tell me something that has happened to them, tell me something about a person that is important to them, that has somehow influenced their identity. So this led me to, in one of our first classes with Natalie, she introduced the app Shadow Puppet. And I used it to create this personal narrative example. Everybody has somebody in their life who has significantly influenced them or helped to change or shape their identity. In my case, it was my twin sister, Emily. When we were little, I always knew that something was different about Emily, but I didn't know what. And I showed this to students as an example of how I could very easily write a 5-page story about this, but I can also create just a 2-minute quick video that puts the same effort into it and it leads to the same end product. I still know who was important to them and why. And I was the only person in the English department that used this year, but it is already in the plans for every English teacher next year to use digital storytelling at least one time in their curriculum. And that is directly because of the discussions that I brought to the English department meetings. For key concept 18, I really felt that with educational technology resources that this was the entire point of our internship, that we were helping staff discover, understand, and properly implement and use new technology tools to help change their classrooms for the better. So at the beginning of the school year, in the very beginning of my internship, I had my staff complete a survey, and I really based my internship around that. I tweaked my action plan. I met with people individually, and that really helped me decide with Jennifer what we wanted to focus on. But when issues arose that I was not going to be able to complete the macro sessions as I wanted, I conducted an informal survey about halfway through my internship to check in with people, and then at the end of my internship just to see what people thought. I wanted feedback from my own personal knowledge, even though the internship did not go the way that I wanted. But based on the feedback from the beginning of the year, I began making a master list of tools for people to use. Teachers wanted a way of just looking at a Google Sheet or looking at some sort of form that had a list of tools that they could access. And we added to this throughout the year as I led professional development sessions. I led to it as I learned about these things throughout grad school. And it was shared on our staff Google Classroom. And as I've stated before, since my internship did not go as planned due to things that I could not control, I had to take a more hands-off approach to my leadership role. And because of that, I ended up becoming the quote-unquote go-to person for questions, anything relating to technology and professional development. I would receive at least a few emails every week asking how to use a certain tool. Did I have an idea of how they could change what they're doing to get out of that substitution stage of SAMR? Could I help them plan a lesson? And it really made me realize that helping adults learn new things can really be just as rewarding as helping our students learn new things. For the next steps for for being a technology leader in my school, throughout this school year coming up, for the 2017-2018 school year, I plan to continue to lead more professional development sessions. I want to be able to use part of my action plan from last year that I was not able to fully implement. I want to really introduce my department and my grade level team to the idea of PLNs that we learned about in Natalie's class. I've really learned a lot about that. I think that it can strengthen practices. I want more of my staff to be involved on Twitter and grow their PLNs that way. I also want to engage in my own personal PLNs and continue collaborating and engaging with educators outside of my school. I use Twitter for personal use, and now I am on it all the time. I love Twitter chats now. And I also want to continue my personal journey as a lifelong learner. This grad school program has taught me a lot about myself. It has taught me a lot about myself as an educator, and I have learned more than I really thought that I would. And I look forward to being able to continue being a tech leader in my school. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to view my portfolio and presentation. Shout out to Kelly for helping us throughout this program and for watching my presentation. Thank you.